Okay, we are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Co Hodges. I'm one of the co-founders and lead instructors at Unraveled Academy. And I have my better half with me today, Sarah Driscoll.
True statement.
And this is the first time that we're doing two things at once. We're doing a live recording of our mugs, our faces, and we're recording for the podcast. So we thought this would be a really excellent opportunity to have some real talk and share a little bit about our lives and our partnership as female entrepreneurs together. And we have come up with a few questions that we're going to ask each other that we have not prepped each other for. So this could get interesting. Okay, so how about I start? I'm going to start you off with a real mild one. Because I feel like we've talked so much about how we met, and most of the people that follow us know pretty much that story, how we met and started this thing. But I want to talk more just like about you. And can you tell everybody really when you started photography? Because I feel like it's such a different story than most because of your blog.
I'm really bad with timelines. I can never remember how long I've actually had a business. I feel like it's similar to you, but I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I've been doing this for 5 years. And then sometimes I'm like, feels like it's only been 2. So I literally don't really know. I guess my photography business maybe was about 4 years ago that I started, because I think I launched it when Carrie Claire was a baby.
Yeah.
She's my but yeah, mine started with a blog, and that was really like my passion, because I am a writer first, and that's what I went to school for. It's actually something that I like to do more than taking pictures, but I don't really get to do it that often. And it's really hard to make a decent amount of money as a writer.
Right.
And like to get your name out there is really, really difficult. So mine started with a mom blog. I actually had like a couple posts go viral where they were like, got a couple million views within like a 24-hour period. I remember when I was in labor with Delaney, I was getting induced. I had posted a blog called like 25 Rules for Mothers of Daughters. And then the next morning, and it was basically just talking about what I hope for, like 25 things that I want to be able to do for my daughter when I have her, because I knew I was having a girl the next day. And then I went to the hospital. I checked my blog stats, like from the hospital bed, because you know us, it's like we're always working even when we're being induced.
Right.
And all of a sudden I was like, what the? I had 1 million views on my post overnight, and it was shared millions of times on Facebook and so forth, and it was just like, holy shit, I'm actually really good at this. What I'm doing. And then from there, it was sort of like, okay, so now the only thing I'm lacking is taking good pictures.
Yeah.
So that's when I grabbed a camera and I started learning, and Delaney was like just my muse from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And from there, I kept having my blog, but eventually I just kind of switched it over to my photography page because I had so many followers.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to waste all of these followers, and I'm not blogging enough, and I'm making money with photography. So I just kind of swapped it over. Completely regret that, because I wish I had kept my blog.
Yeah.
But that's really how it all began.
Yeah. Which is
not
the norm. It's not the norm.
Kind of in that, like, I was blogging about motherhood and so forth.
Yeah, so many parallels there for sure. Speak of the devil. Hi, Carrie.
It's probably not going to work for a podcast.
Probably not. It's all right. This is a real deal, you guys. This is not even close to what it's really like for us on a daily basis. In fact, we are planning on doing videoing a day in the life, just a typical day for us together. And we do live on opposite sides of the country. You know, we're based in the U.S. She's in Massachusetts and I'm in Arizona. We couldn't be further apart. We do life together essentially. And so we're gonna film that, like a real day in the life of what it's really like for us. Kids everywhere, disasters, explosions in the house, whatever.
Right. The funniest thing is that we became partners before we had even met each other.
Yep.
So we started a nonprofit together, and we're partners for that before we had actually met each other in person.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. It's like one of those. Have you ever seen the show Catfish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where they're like, I'm in love with this person. They're my soulmate.
Yep.
And like they've never actually met in person.
They've never met.
Most of the time it's like a fake person. Like I could have been totally different. But.
You could have been a serial killer. Or I could have been one. No, it's so true. It was just one of those things that, I mean, we didn't even think twice about starting a nonprofit together. It was within a 5-minute period where we were like, that's a great idea. Stranger who I don't know really. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Looking back, it was like a no-brainer. There wasn't a question in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. I think had we second guessed it or even discussed it with other people that have been like, maybe meet her first. Right. Oh, gosh.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey and how you became a photographer?
Mm-hmm. Mine's not as cool or exciting. Mine's really, and I don't want to downplay it because I feel like it's a really beautiful experience. But I have, very similar parallel experience to a lot of women who, you have creativity festering inside, but you don't really know if it's anything that matters. And then you have kids. And then you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I have to document them. And that was really it. Like I don't talk about this a ton, but I don't have any relationship with my father really. But one of the biggest things he and I connected on was he was a photographer. He was in the military, but he did, weirdly enough, food photography on the side. And when I was a kid, we moved around a ton, but there was this one old house that we lived in for a little bit, and it had a dark room. And we processed film together when I was like 11 or 12. And that was my first real, like, tiptoe into the creativity pool, and I loved it. And so for that and for the love of beer, I guess I thank my father. Those were our two things that we did together. But, fast forward, I always had a camera. If I really am being honest, I always had a camera. Always loved taking pictures, was always that person. But it really didn't spark for me until I had my first daughter. And then it was just an explosion. I felt this weight of having to document her,
Yeah, and it was also like when we were younger, it wasn't as prominent as it is now as a career. Growing up, I remember thinking about it multiple times.
Yeah.
Wow, photography is so cool. I thought about taking the photography class at my high school and all those things, but it wasn't like, at least my parents were never like, do it. Like, they were like, never like, they were always like, well, what are you going to do with that, really?
Right.
Like, it was never really accepted. But like, because you had that dark room, like, that's just the coolest thing ever, you were able to really like, try it out.
Try it out. And see that, and like that's a really good memory I have that I cherish with my father. And it's so interesting because it wasn't like a real career even in the 90s and 80s and 90s. But now there still is that element. Like when I first decided that I was going to do a local photography business, my ex-husband was like, "Why? Like, you won't make any money doing that. Why would you even do that? That's a hobby. People don't do that." And so I do feel like there is still that vibe, that energy behind it of like, that's not really a job. Yeah.
Definitely. And that's why I think so many people start as a hobby.
Yeah.
With it. Like, it's mostly just like, oh, this is a hobby. When like deep down in their heart, they're like, hopefully it's not just a hobby.
Right.
But most people try to like ease themselves into it so they're not disappointed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that they're not like, I'm starting a photography business like right away, and then have their partner or whoever be like, well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know,
that's stupid. Why would you do that? Yeah. And I mean, I talked about this a bunch, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but my first time really opening up and talking about that experience of, the first 2 years of my quote unquote photography career were really hard because my husband, he did not want it at all. It was miserable to him. It was unnecessary. It put an additional strain on our marriage. It wasn't what ended our marriage. I always want to make sure I say that because we had struggles with other things. Like this was not, but me making that choice separate of my partner definitely didn't help things. But I'm still, that's one of the things that, people ask me, like, are you glad that you did, even though you went completely against what he wanted? Yeah, I'm really glad that I did that. It was really fucking hard. Cried a lot, questioned it a lot, almost quit a lot. And now, like, sitting here, realizing what we've built and the potential for what we continue to build, I'm so grateful that I didn't quit. So
totally.
There's a lot to it. It's really hard. It's something too that, like, you and I talk about this all the time. College. When we were growing up, my parents didn't have money for me to go to college, or at least that's what they said. So I either had to be smart or good at sports. So I was kind of okay at both, and I made it to college. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, lots of student debt. I mean, I feel like we're lucky we're in a space that we're showing our kids that's not the only answer. We're more successful doing this.
Did you go to a state school, or did you go to...
So the first college I went to, it was a private school, very expensive. I went to play soccer, and it was in South Carolina. I went for a year, and I left, and then I got recruited to a school in Colorado. Yeah, so 2 very different experiences. I did get scholarships to both academic and soccer, but it just wasn't enough. And I was on my own. Like, I had to pay rent, food, take care of myself, was working a bunch of different jobs. And in hindsight, I'm lucky for all those, difficult experiences. It made me a hard worker. But I take all of that information and I'm processing it differently for my children now. So when there's like a dialogue about what you want to be when you grow up, it's wide open. And it doesn't always include college for me.
No, not us either.
Yeah. So
I feel like it's a waste of flipping money.
Yeah.
So much money, unless you have something specific like teaching or becoming a doctor or something specific that you want an education for. I'm just like, whatever. Go to trade school. Be a plumber. Be an electrician. Like, be a hairdresser. I don't even care. Like, do what makes you happy. Yep. And, like, that's it.
And we'll take care of the rest. I know. I think it's really interesting. Like, my first year of college, my parents, we're privileged. Don't get me wrong. Like, we're middle class, so like I have privilege. So it's not like I was impoverished or anything like that. I don't want to make it sound like that, but they weren't providing for college or what was coming after that. But they did make me feel like I had to do something prestigious. So I actually got a full ride to just a local community college to play soccer for them. It was a good community college. It was a good team. Most of those girls went on to play for big teams. And it would have been a good decision, I think. And even now, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, was I smarter than my parents at 16 years old? And they were like, no, we don't want you to do that. You're going to go to this fancy private school that's going to give you money, but you're still going to have to pay. And my first year of college, I went into $12,000 of debt for 1 year, even though I got a scholarship. I'm still paying that off. Just slowly but surely, just whittling away at my student debt 15 years later. And, you look at, there's a huge problem. Obviously, there's a dialogue, with the Obamas. They talked about it all the time, of just how much student debt is impacting the United States and how many people have over $100,000 worth of it just hanging out, ruining their lives for a degree they may or may not be using.
Totally, and that's the whole thing, is that most of the time I feel like people aren't even using their degrees anymore. It's just a bunch of bull, you know? It's just like to get the paper so you can get a job, you know?
Right. To go back to bartending. Because that's what I did. It's like, okay, you graduated. Yay! Oh, there's no jobs for you. Well, let's go back to the restaurant.
I literally tried to do that and failed miserably because I was so anxious and I was like, I don't know how to make a drink. I literally tried multiple restaurants, multiple bars, and left like within 24 hours.
Oh.
Nope, can't.
Well, it's not fun. Let's start with that.
I was at a point where I was so incredibly anxious all the time that it like I physically couldn't do it. I just froze and got sick.
Yeah.
It was bad. I was so anxious.
I think we should talk a little bit about that too. I don't think I say this enough because we're together every day, but you kind of blow my mind with how much strength you have and perseverance through the anxiety you deal with. And I know you deal with it, but you don't ever show it.
Well, I feel like that's one thing that people are, like, they always say. Like, that, every time we teach, people are like, yeah, you're lying. Like, that's not true. And I'm like, literally, if you saw me in high school or, like, college or anything, like, I couldn't fucking have a conversation without literally dying inside. Like, feeling like my whole body was shutting down. It's so hard to explain. And I still, like, I feel super anxious right now just because I know people are listening.
Right.
You know what I mean? And every time we teach, it's like, oh, God, I hate it. I love like being able to do it and like feeling afterwards, and I love being able to connect with people and tell them what I know. But the act of like prepping, like the anxiety that goes into that is so hard.
Yeah.
And it's just awful. It's actually just fucking awful.
Well, well, I'm like, I've heard you, like, since I've known you, and we've had like just little snippets of conversations about it. I've put it all together, but like, I mean, I'm very blessed. I've only ever experienced it in postpartum. I couldn't imagine feeling that way all the time. It's so debilitating. It takes so much of your energy, and and then, you know, so much of it, you wonder if anybody else is dealing with it, if this is normal or typical or whatever other word you want to use. And I loved when you talked about it at our last retreat, and it was the first time you I really felt you open up, and you were so vulnerable. It was really beautiful. But like, I know that was hard to say. And when you first like talked about it, you were like, I felt like I was all alone. Like, there's no way in the world anybody else could be feeling like this on a daily.
And the hard part when you have such severe anxiety and I guess depression, is that you feel like, this is what I was talking about at the retreat, it's like you feel like you don't deserve it, like there's no need. Like, again, I feel like I was pretty blessed. You know, growing up, I was a pretty blessed person. I had decent, I mean, we had money, I mean, not a lot of money, but we were able to survive just fine, very, very comfortable. I was good at sports. I was really popular. The boys liked me. The girls liked me. Like, it was just easy in theory. Yeah. But, like, all I wanted, literally, was to be ugly. Like, that sounds ridiculous. My dad still is like, that's stupid to say that. But, like, I literally just wanted to be ugly and invisible so people would stop talking to me. Yeah. Like, it sounds so stupid. No. But, like, I wanted to just be able to go down the hall without people being like, Sarah, what are you doing? Or, like, guys fucking hitting on me. Like, I just wanted to be invisible. And I just couldn't be. It just, it was awful. Oh, yeah.
It's a lot. I don't know. It really is an interesting... No, it's so true. It's an interesting concept. I feel like this is a whole conversation just talking about the time in which we grew up too, and high school years and all of that.
Nobody talked about that.
Yeah.
No, it was not a thing.
Right.
Like that. Nobody talked about.
No. Oh no. Nobody talked about that. People weren't talking about bullying. People weren't talking about what it's really like to be a young female growing up with just surrounded with pictures that you're never going to look like, and all of the body image issues, and not feeling like you can be yourself. And then you insert, any other difficult thing where you feel like your own family doesn't even know who you are, or maybe you don't even know who you are. I mean, this is a whole slew of issues from the 80s and 90s.
It really is.
For sure.
I feel like it really did make us stronger. I feel like it made me stronger because as an individual, I had to figure it out myself. Like my family was a sweep it under the rug. Yep. Everybody look away when Sarah's anxious. Pretend it's not happening. Right. And she'll get through it, Mm-hmm. Like she'll be fine. We just all have to pretend like she's normal, And
that's horrible.
And for me, it was like I learned I would stay up all night long with anxiety and stress and fear, and I would wake up like barely sleep, and I'd just be like, okay, well now I got to get through this day. Like now I have to figure out how to survive again. And I feel like it just made me stronger. And now when I think back to that person, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, I think that's why I pushed myself so much to be better, because I saw all these people who could have conversations and who could hold their head high and be proud of who they were. And I just wanted to be that forever, and I had a good amount of friends who were just incredible and amazing. And I just saw them and how they presented themselves, and I was like, I someday will present myself as at least semi-confident.
Right. Well, and I see how you dealt with that in relation to how you deal with whatever struggles come our way as far as the business side of things. You deal with stuff, but you're like, well, let's deal with this. We gotta fucking keep going, and it really is. Like we're so similar in so many ways, but we're so different with how we handle life. And you really are kind of just like, well, what can I do about it? We got to keep going. And it's really it's really helpful. It's sad that was how you learned that. And it was like your conditioned reaction to hardship or struggle, but it is something that is honestly, I feel like what makes us a really successful unit, because it's not easy to be business partners. It's not easy to have a collaborative effort in any capacity for an entity. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about this, you guys. This is my next question for Sarah. And what would you say is the most difficult part of being co-founders or co-creators of a business?
I mean, I think it kind of almost is just an obvious answer. Like, the obvious answer is that both you and I are pretty strong-minded and strong-willed people. Like, both of us have an idea in our head, and we want it to be our way. Like, we're our way or the highway kind of people. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I think in the beginning, it was easy for us to say, like, you would have an idea, and I'd be like, wonderful, instead of sort of like,
for sure.
And because we were still getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And we were still, like, walking a fine line of, we wanted to make sure that we both liked one another, we wanted to make sure that we stayed friends.
Right.
I think the hardest part has been as we've gotten more and more comfortable with one another, it unfortunately has created, fortunately and unfortunately, has created, like, for me, now I'm like, okay, well, I disagree with you.
Right. Right.
And it has created, it's harder for us because I'm not just going to pretend like I agree with something that you come up with just because it will make you happy. Right. Now I'm like, you know what? That's a shitty idea.
And you guys, I do have my weekly shitty idea.
Now it's easier. It's easier to say that. And we've had a decent amount of fights, I guess you could say, or falling out.
I wouldn't say we had I would say as classified as fights, maybe like 2 real ones. Yeah. You know which ones I'm talking about. But more of like.
But I feel like it's we get there because we both have opinions. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're able to just like wake up the next day and be like, nah, probably shouldn't have said that, or probably should hear her out a little bit more. Right. But I feel like it actually makes us stronger in the end.
I agree.
You know, because like I'm able to say my piece, do what I need to do, even if it's bitchy, because you're super sensitive.
That's true.
And then we can, you know, where I got my shit out, I feel better.
Yep.
And then we can move on. You know, like that's. I feel like that's where our strength comes from, because we're able to get through it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think that's like becoming our superpower, becoming where it was kind of a detriment when we first started. Really, like, we're tight. We're like, I consider you family, and it's really hard to separate that sometimes. We're like, she's like my sister, but I'm her business partner as well. And in business at work, like when I was working at the hospital, I would go to the hospital. I had business relationships with people, and I could separate that. I wasn't going home and having to exist with these people on the daily. It was like I left it at work. With you and I, like, we're so intertwined, it can be difficult to separate those. So, like, I feel like that has become, and it continues to become, more powerful for us, because I've learned so much about how to talk to people in more of like a matter-of-fact way. And like, we talk to each other now, we're like, no, this is how I really feel, and this isn't meant to hurt your feelings. You don't even have to preface it with that as much as you used to. We're like, I don't mean this to hurt your feelings, Co.
And that is exactly how it used to be. Like, I used to have to say, okay, so, and like, as kind as possible, and you, as you know, that's not me. Like, I'm not
that's me.
That this isn't gonna work because X, Y, and Z. And so I'm like, Co, fucking stupid.
Yep. No. And now, because I used to get my feelings hurt. And when we talk about, like, all of these have so many parallels to, like, a real marriage. Like, we have a marriage, essentially. And marriage is hard. And even, like, going through my divorce, I learned so much in the countless hours of therapy that we went to. And I was like, that can be applied to all of my relationships ever. And just, like, the nurturing aspect, but also, like, the realizing different personalities and respecting them. And that her experience is different than my experience. And that doesn't mean hers is wrong. It means it's just different. Hi, baby. And that's something that's been so helpful for me. So now it's like, and then I've kind of taken my guard down where I don't feel like I have to do, because I'm talking about myself. Like, it's a projection of what I would need on you. So I'm not like, okay, honey, so I really want to talk to you about this. And I'm like, no, I just say my mind, say my piece, and then we're done with it. It saves a lot of time. It's been really, really powerful for us, and I've learned from you. I know we've learned from each other. I
absolutely have learned from you. Like, there are parts of you, absolutely. Like, I know that I have a rough exterior, and I know that I come off as bitchy to people. And whereas, like, when we're at a retreat or wherever we are, I know that, you know, you tend to be the more nurturing one, and the one that people see with the smile, and the one that, you know, draws people in a little bit more. And I wish I could be that way, but it's not in my personality. And I think the best thing I can do is just, like, embrace the person that I am.
Yes.
And once you know me, you know I'm actually nice. I have a harder time, like, giving that to people. And it's an extreme stressor for me. It causes my anxiety to flare up, and I prefer people to just shoot it straight. Yeah. And that's easy for me. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's no hidden messaging there. There's no questioning of what's really going on or the intention behind the relationship or the conversation. It's just black and white, and it's easier for you to digest that. And I feel like we're another strength of ours is we're getting better at this, because you and I both came from a space where we were really insecure as young women, and in different capacities in our own stories, but which bridged from our childhoods and our experiences there. And so I feel like we both really came into our own in our late 20s, early 30s, and which is when we found each other. Right. And now we're kind of like growing up together again. And it's been really interesting to see, like, your strengths and like your level of comfort and what you bring to the table is more than beautiful. And like our last workshop was really indicative of that when we were in Australia. and I was watching you, and I remember you telling me, you're like, I felt you looking at me with like just this ridiculous, goofy smile, because I was sitting there next to you going, holy shit, she's just like come into her own, and this is her, this is Sarah. Like, she's giving so much to these people. She doesn't have to be like me, all goofy and loud all the time. Like, she is her, and everybody is feeding into that and loving it, and you gave everybody so much.
Well, thanks.
I love you. All right, cool. So maybe we'll wrap this up with like one more question each. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you already took my question.
Oh shit, sorry.
I was gonna ball bust you and say, who's your favorite employee?
Oh, that's so mean. I can't pick one. We have the best team. You guys, we have the best team ever. We're so blessed. And I feel like that just comes organically. We're just really lucky like that. But so I cannot pick. Thank you for that. Between Mike and Sam and Melissa, they're just too good. And we have like a really large extended family here at Unraveled. We have so many moderators and experts and instructors. We have a really, really great team.
We really do.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite part of Unraveled? The favorite part of the community, the academy, and like just being able to run your own business.
Ooh, there's so many answers for that. Okay, so maybe I could lump it all into one thing. I mean, I'm really grateful for all of it. Never thought this would be where we would be right now. When we first had this idea, it was meant to be something so much simpler. And it grew so fast. But honestly, I have formed lifelong friendships through this. And I know a lot of people say that about different photography groups or Facebook groups or whatever, but like I really have. My life would be exponentially different without Unraveled. Like my people, my family are within it, and it's the best part. How about you? What do you think?
I think that's just kind of the same, and just like the comfort that it allows, because I feel like, especially for me as a super anxious person, like finding a place that I feel like I can just do my own thing, and you either like it or you hate it. You don't have to like hate it, but I'm actually allowed to say fuck if I want to say fuck. Right. Like I'm not sitting at a desk like in an office, and I don't have to dress a certain way, and I can whoever I want to be every single day.
We can drink wine out of mugs in the middle of the day. That's true. That's real talk. That's real talk. It is.
Being allowed to be myself and do exactly what I love all the time. And you either love it or you hate it. I don't care either way. That's
it. That's everything. That's what I want so hard for my kids. I feel like every time it gets hard, every time there's a business struggle or a big decision to make, or really anything that could go wrong, because stuff goes wrong in business, I think of that. I'm like, okay, like I want this as an option for my kids, or whatever they're gonna do, whoever they're gonna be. I want them to know that they can have something like Mom had. Right. So it keeps me going.
I love it. Yeah. Totally.
Oh, this was so great. All right. I'm going to end the recording. Yeah, it was good. So, it was good. And we are going to be making a day in the life much more messy than this interview. I promise you that. Where we show you literally start to finish of our day together on opposite sides of the country running this company. So that'll be really interesting. I'm a little nervous.
I feel like yours is going to look very polished and mine is going to look like a fucking disaster.
No way. No way. I'm going to keep it real. I'm not cleaning anything. I'm going to keep it real.
I have a pretty clean house, so.
You do have a really clean house. I noticed that when we were there. I was like, how does she do this with 4 kids? My house looks like a tornado hit it every day.
It's one thing that I can't function without. Look what I got for my birthday.
Oh, I love that baby. Sweet girl. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to have more up on this channel soon, But we love you all.
Bye, everybody.